much as I enjoy playing the new consoles, I still yearn for that nostalgic feeling of playing physical cartridges on an old handheld console. And one of my favorites was the Game Boy Advance. Now over here you can see I have analog pockets. I also recently acquired, very recently, like even since I did my handheld collection, a friend of mine actually saw the video and was like, I actually have a Game Boy that you might be interested in. And that was the Gameboy SP. And this is actually what is called the Shrek edition. Gameboy SP. Not officially dubbed that by Nintendo. But this apparently came with the Shrek 2 game for the Game Boy Advance, I believe. And that is why it is the green and brownish orange. And I was like, the Shrek Game Boy Advance SP. Of course I want that. And it's in relatively good condition. But sadly they don't sell replacement shells for this, so this is just the way that it is. But unlike this specific Game Boy, which is not one of my prized pieces, unlike that one specifically, you can actually change out shells for the Game Boy Color, Game Boy Pocket, Game Boy SP, and the classic Game Boy Advance. So I'm just going to set this newer console down here and show you my problem child. This is a Game Boy Advance, a classic one. I really love this design. It feels very nice in the hands. I feel like the SP feels okay, but it's smaller. And definitely is more pocket size, but it doesn't feel as good in the hands as this one. But in case you can't tell, this guy is wrecked. And I want to change that. Now, back in the day, I used to do a lot of Game Boy Color mods, and I used to refurbish them basically. I've never done a Game Boy Advance before. And actually, you can see already, I have on the back here, I have a USB-C charging mod installed on this already, just because I wanted to try it out. Very easy. You just needed to modify the back of the shell a tiny little bit, cut a few pieces, that's it. But I also want to change out this old scratched up shell, and mostly this old scratched up screen. And then I was thinking about it, and I'm like, okay, well I could just do the shell, but why not also get a new display as well? Because honestly, the display is not the greatest. The buttons are clicky, but the display is kind of mediocre. So I got, along with the new shell, I got a LCD display mod that we're also going to try to put in this today. Now it's time to show you the shell that I got. scratched up. You can't see it on the camera very well, but it is. You can't see the screen though. So tonight, we're going to be attempting this together. We're going to clean this guy up. It works perfectly fine, other than the shell is damaged and the screen is damaged. So, we're going to take this guy apart together. I may have to cut chunks out for reasons that I'm sure if you understand the fourth wall break, that I'm not going to say directly, you'll understand why I have to do that. But we are going to try to modify this console together. And I'm kind of excited. This gives me a chance to nerd out, and hopefully you guys also enjoy the little nerd out. So, without further ado, let's get started. Okay. So the first thing we have to do is take out these screws on the back, and then there's also one where the battery plate. These are tri-wing screws, and then the other one is just a small Phillips. I also already took out the battery mod because there was no reason to show that. Is that these screws are really hard to get out, which means they're clearly old and fused. Sorry if you guys can't see it, but there's that one, and I believe it's out. If it's not, it's basically out. There we go. Oh yeah. You can see dust. I don't know if it'll focus on this tiny little screw. But yeah, it's got a lot of dust on it. So, that's one. Now I gotta try to find where to, there we go. And just to say it, if you have a replacement shell like I do, they all come with replacement screws usually, so I'm not worried. The only thing you want to worry, or you don't want to do is strip these out before you actually get them out, but if you strip them a little bit, it's not the end of the world. I'll also show you guys a little closer what we're talking about here. Alright, hopefully this one just pops out. Or not. This one's being a pain. It's interesting to me how these can be this difficult, like they're that fused together with the motherboard and the shell, but some of them just really are. Usually this process, the whole build takes roughly an hour and a half, 2 hours to do a Gameboy color. We'll see how long this takes specifically. Alright. Believe all the other ones are out. The two that are in the deep slots don't seem to want to come out, so we're just going to try to take this last screw out, which is, by the way, just to show you, it is, if it will focus, please, right there. That should get this whole thing up. There we are. I think there's two. So, oh, there's an old button. So that's actually no, this is the side. So we have this side. We have this button. The triggers. This is the motherboard. All this, and then this is the ribbon cable for the screen. That's when I'm going to grab my iFixit kit, which used to have a tri-wing bit in it, which is why I'm a little upset that I didn't get to use it, because I much prefer that. I'm just going to grab this little guy here. And if it will allow me to show you guys easily, we're just going to push up these little guys right there. Oh, don't damage anything. There we go. I think I hit the ribbon cable a little bit. I'm not worried about it because we're getting rid of the screen anyway. Then we gotta take out these guys. These two screws, which are just Phillips. I'm gonna do that off camera. I'll be right back. Okay. So, now that that's done, I also organized everything. I got these old buttons out of here. We also have these old buttons here. And believe it or not, we're not going to use any of this. We're now going to take this motherboard and basically put it in our new Game Boy shell. The rest of this is useless because we're going to be putting in this screen mod, which I can show you guys. Let's see. This guy right here. Into our new Game Boy shell. All we need is this. This is where all the magic happens. So, we're going to get rid of all this stuff except for the screws. I'll probably keep those just in case. And we'll start opening the new shell and getting it ready. Alright, so here's the shell. Here's the front cover plate. Actually, it looks like it already has one of the triggers installed, but we want both of them in there, so, and I'm gonna have those on the front, so we're just gonna do that real quick. Hold on. Use my tweezers. Okay, and that's the front. Then we have this. I don't know what this is. Oh, this is the sticker. Hold on. That goes on the back of the Game Boy once it's all said and done. Get some button gels. Of course, we get the buttons and the extra screws. And then this is actually already modded. Let me just see here. This should already be modded for the battery mod that I have. This shell is pre-cut, which is pretty cool. Oh. Loose side panel came off. Alright. So what we're going to do is we're going to put all of these gels and buttons in the correct places on the front of the plate. And then we'll go from there. Alright. Skipping ahead here, but moving right along. All of our buttons are in place. Now it's time to get this guy out, and this is kind of complicated, I think. So one thing that I'm not going to be doing is soldering. This actually requires you to solder using a soldering iron. I'm not skilled with that. I've done it before. I don't like doing it. It's scary, and you can ruin your device really easily if you don't know what you're doing. And the only reason you need to solder for this mod is to have brightness control so that you can change the brightness of the device. I'm not worried about that. I just want it to be bright and not, non-lit like it was. I just want it to actually be backlit. So, that's what we're going to be doing. We're not going to solder, we're going to do the bare minimum we have to do. I'm going to skip ahead through some of this. Again, I'm sorry. But hopefully this is still just relaxing to, look at visually a little bit here and there while I'm explaining what I'm doing a little bit. So, without further ado, let's start working on this guy. And I think the first step is actually getting the ribbon cable out and getting that all set up. Because it is different than the one that comes with the original Game Boy Advance. So, that'll be interesting. Alright, so another update. We have the screen in. The ribbon cable for the screen is actually connected. We had a piece of there's this sticky black foam that my roommate actually had to do, because that holds this in place, and then we have this nice piece of plastic that goes over the top so that nothing from here is touching the motherboard. It's basically just a divider, which is nice, nifty for sure. So now we just have to connect it to the motherboard, which should be a bit of a process. So let's see how that goes. Wish me luck, I guess. Alright. Now we've got it all back together. This looks very nice. The buttons are a pain to get just right, like where they need to be. But otherwise, this is looking quite nice. I'm gonna zoom it in just a little bit so you can see exactly what's going on. So now, we're just gonna close this up, flip it, put the screen cover on, and then we're almost done. Just put some stickers on and stuff, so let's continue, shall we? Alright. Wow, look at this guy. Sorry, I had to wipe the screen. So it's basically all patched up. Stickers on. Mod is in. So this guy can now charge via USB-C. But now it's time to see if this works. Because we don't know. Here goes nothing. Would you look at that? Would you look at that? It works. And that is actually gorgeous. This display is so nice. So the one hiccup I ran into was that my tri-wing screwdriver basically stripped out. This was the cheap one they gave me with the kit. I have another one, I just don't know where it is. So this is almost fully done. It's working. Well, my friends, that was that. The video might not have been the greatest video, but I kind of wanted to show you guys this process a little bit and just show you that it's something that I do. Share a little bit about some of my other hobbies. And this is definitely one of them, and this came out better than I even expected. Feels like something always goes wrong with these kinds of installations, especially the first time I ever do it, but this went wonderful. So, leave a like if you enjoyed. This was like an hour plus of recording, and I think it took me about an hour and 35 minutes or so. And maybe share it with somebody if you think they think this is cool. Let me know if you're also into doing this in the comments as well. And what your favorite handheld system is.